People of Reddit who have momentarily died then were revived. What were those fleeting moments like? Serious. I was 15, had been through about 3-4 months of chemotherapy. I'd had a nosebleed on and off throughout the day, and then after I went to bed it just kept on going. I couldn't sleep, just had to keep lying there, mopping my nose and sneezing out these rubbery little blood clots. At about 2 AM I started to feel sick, so I reached for the container. I always had one by my bed because the meds I was on gave me really bad morning sickness, and threw up. It was a thick, dark red. After that I only remember what happened in short bursts. I think my mum had got up to go to the bathroom and I managed to hit the wall loud enough for her to hear. She came in and there was blood everywhere, coming out my nose and mouth, all over the bed and on the walls. Real horror show. Then I remember a paramedic being there, trying to help me out of the bed. I must have collapsed against the wall after that, because next time I came round I was strapped to a stretcher and they were taking me downstairs. Then I was in the hospital, surrounded by about 6 doctors with these huge lights pointed right at me. It was to try and keep me warm because I'd lost so much blood. I could feel myself sweating but I was still cold. It was a weird feeling. One of the doctors cauterized my nose and I definitely felt that. It hurt like a or even compared to my insides tearing themselves apart with sepsis and C. difficile. The doctor who did it was so nervous that he pushed the white hot material they use for cauterization right through my septum. I still have the hole today. The worst part of it all, looking back, is how peaceful it can seem. When I started vomiting blood, I went into shock. Hitting the wall to get my mum's attention was a subconscious thing. The rest of me just stopped caring. When the doctors were trying to save my life, I just wanted to black out again. I didn't want the lights to hurt my eyes and the doctors to hurt the rest of me anymore. The unconsciousness seemed easier. And that's how it felt when I was in the ICU for a few weeks after that, doped up on ketamine and slipping in and out of life. Being asleep was easy. Being awake meant more pain and less dignity. So if you want to know what it's like to be that close to death, it's tempting. It's like wanting to hit the snooze button on your alarm at 7 AM. And maybe you do hit it once or twice, but then you remember that you have work or school and that sleep can wait because you've still got to do. I got sepsis from tools used over at a dentist. I went to the dentist feeling fine. Happy that I finally got the work done that I needed. I went out shopping with my mom and had a lovely time. Around 7 PM I started feeling dizzy. I had just flown in from Japan, so I assumed it was jet lag and fell asleep. I woke up in the middle of the night with a 42°C fever and I couldn't lift my head high enough to puke on the floor, so I puked all over myself, the bed and my lovely concerned dog. I tried to yell out to my mother but I didn't even have the strength to do that. Luckily, the sounds of me vomiting was enough to wake her up. I vomited so much I was vomiting the lining of my stomach as I had no more food left in me. My mother carried me to the car and drove me to the emergency room. Once arrived at the hospital I was put on the most uncomfortable bed ever and drifted off. I couldn't stay awake. That's when I saw nurses and doctors around me injecting me with things and shouting. I remember thinking that it must be serious if a doctor was shouting, as they usually don't show panic. I was lucid enough to laugh internally thinking, wow, I must be really sick if I don't even freak out over all of these injections. And then it happened. I saw my mom crying and I thought, holy sh*, this must be for real. And as soon as I thought that, I fell asleep. I say asleep, but I died for exactly 2 minutes. It really feels like falling asleep, but for me it was beyond peaceful. It felt like you didn't really have to worry about anything anymore, and obviously in my case I didn't feel sick anymore. As someone that was once suicidal, this was actually a horribly dangerous feeling, as for the first time I got confirmation that dying wasn't all that scary. I woke up 7 days later in the hospital. It took me another 7 to start eating and they told me that I more than likely got sepsis from infected tools at the dentist. The scariest part was after that happened I no longer feared dying. So I consciously try to pull myself out of a depression whenever I feel it coming. But for whoever is scared that their loved one felt pain and death, I can honestly say it's a very peaceful feeling. Edit. For all the worried people regarding dental work, I had chosen an out-of-home dentist with a very small practice that wasn't charging me a lot. I never checked reviews because I'm a cheapskate. Don't let this scare you. I've had dental work since and it all went swimmingly. Also, my doctor said it was more than likely from the tools the dentist used. I was just happy to be alive, and no legal action. We reported the dentist, and reading the reviews afterwards, he didn't have the best reputation, but I'm from a country where legal action takes forever and leads to nothing. I was 16 years old and encountered tachycardia for the first time. Went to the ER with my mom, not really thinking it was a big deal, hardly any symptoms aside from high heart rate. I didn't realize how intense the situation was until two cardiologists and several nurses rushed me to what looked like an operating room of sorts. Again, I didn't really know the full extent of what was happening. I felt pretty normal and never had a history of heart issues up until then. However, my mom worked in the medical field for several decades and I could see the utter fear and concern on her face. Fast forward to the doctors trying to slow my heart down but couldn't. Last resort is some drug that essentially stops your heart and resets it at a normal beat. Right as they're giving me the drug, they warn me I might feel a heavy weight on my chest. What a f***ing understatement. Felt like someone was bit by bit, squeezing all the air and life out of me. Eventually the room went black and a feeling of peace came over me, like I was going to sleep. I didn't see anything good or bad, just emptiness. When I awoke, I assumed only a few seconds had passed. Instead, the drug caused my heart to stop for 10 minutes or so and the doctors were trying to revive me, assuming I was dead given the flat line. I'm 27 now and 2 years ago I had a second episode happen. Luckily, when they gave me the drug I didn't pass out, yet I was forcing myself to stay awake. I didn't want to die again. Edit, not sure if anyone wants to see it, but I have a photo from when I got the ablation surgery done. It's the wires running into my heart that they used to zap the hell out of the bad cells causing my heart issue. Edit 2. Photo of inside my heart during heart surgery because of SVT. When I was 14 and at a party, I drank way too much. I was sort of an alcoholic even at that age, due to easy access to alcohol at the time. Also a family full of alcoholics who didn't give a f***. Woke up on the bathroom floor vomiting my guts out, in and out of consciousness. I could faintly hear my brother in the background, calling for an ambulance. Woke up in a hospital bed where the doctor said I had been dead for 2 minutes, but they managed to revive me. My back was 0.56. In my experience, being dead was like being asleep. Absolutely no difference. No flashbacks, no afterlife that I could recall. It was exactly like sleeping. Very peaceful. As if that wasn't bad enough, I continued to drink heavily 4 years after that incident because I hadn't learned my lesson apparently. I eventually sought out help after another scare, but that's a story for another day. 18 months sober. 2 months ago I was OD'd on anesthesia in an oral surgeon's office. Coded in the ER and was dead for under a minute, but f*** it counts. Between me going out and me waking up in the ICU there is nothing. No black void, lost loved ones, messages from the other side. Nothing. Processing it since then. I don't know if there's nothingness is comforting or terrifying. Complete peace and serenity. Cannot be put into words. I felt something, maybe a being, guiding me with the purest and strongest love. I was about 10 at the time. Dying felt amazing, and I know this post sounds like so many other experiences, but it's true. A few years ago I was put under for a biopsy. That feeling was truly odd, and felt a lot more like death should have. Lights out, except there is no blackness either, no concept of time. Could have been out a minute or a year and wouldn't have known the difference. I got stung by a nest of wasps right next door to my home. They stung me all over my head, neck, behind my ears. 39 stings the doctor counted. It was insane. I ran away as fast as I could. The nest was on the door of a garage I had just come out of and bumped. I got home and was like, okay. I'm okay. I'm cool. Told my mom I got stung by some bees, but I thought I was okay. She didn't seem too worried. I decided to go take a shower. In the shower I began feeling dizzy and my back started hurting. I quickly turned the shower off and got my clothes on and began feeling dizzier and dizzier. Then when I came out of the bathroom, my mom looked at me and had a look of horror. Told me to get in the car immediately. My face and head had swollen hugely. We live just around the corner from the hospital, so she just drove me. Between my house and the hospital I started losing consciousness. Everything I saw had a yellowy tinge and I suddenly felt very heavy and tired. My breathing got very labored, but I sort of didn't care. I felt like I was slipping away into sleep. You know, old TVs, when they were turned off the screen would be basically engulfed in black and the light shrank down into a pinpoint before disappearing? My vision slowly started feeling like it was doing that. I remember arriving at the hospital and they didn't even bother with registration. They threw my ass on a gurney and started pushing me back. As I was going back I remember closing my eyes and thinking, I guess whatever happens. And then nothing. Just like going to sleep when you're super exhausted. I felt kind of peaceful and wasn't really thinking about anything much at all, and the lights just went out. Some minutes later I opened my eyes and a very large man was staring at me, smiling, and said, "Well, bad news. You're gonna feel completely fine within a couple of hours. You probably won't even get out of going to school tomorrow." He was right. Thanks for watching. Please consider liking the video and subscribe if you want more Ask Reddit.